Hi guys, it's Daniela again and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello. So for today's video I'm going to be talking to you about makeup palettes that I'm really glad I didn't buy. Most of these are actually high-end products and most of them are actually eyeshadow palettes. So yeah, this video is just going to be me talking to you about palettes that I'm glad I didn't buy and why. I will be posting up pictures of the palette as I'm talking about them. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed today's video and let's get started. Right, guys, so the first palette I want to talk to you about is the Melt Cosmetics Smoke Sessions palette. So when I first saw this palette, I was like, oh my god, that is such a stunning palette. And it is. It's an absolutely beautiful palette. It's got loads of shimmers. It's only got 2 mattes, however. But I really like the colour scheme. And I love like green and I really like the golds in there. However, when I saw the price, I was like, I'm not going to buy it just yet. I'm going to leave it a little bit and see if I come back to it. And I never ended up buying it, which I'm so glad I did, because when you look at it, yes, it's a beautiful palette. I love like the whole theme of it and everything. But how much am I going to use that palette? Like, how many looks can I create from that palette? I wanted to really think about whether I wanted to buy it or not. And I'd never tried Melt eyeshadows, so I didn't know how they were in formula and consistency. But then like everyone was talking about Melt Cosmetics and it was a very hyped up product. When I kind of stopped and thought about why I wanted the palette, realistically I wanted it because it was so hyped up. And like their Gemini palette was limited edition, and that was a palette that I was like, oh, I could see myself buying that and using that a lot. But it's limited edition, but I didn't know this one was going to be limited edition or not. So I was like, oh, you know, I might not be able to get it again. Should I get it? Should I get it? And I just never did. It's not a drugstore palette, so it's not something I can just buy and not feel bad about not using. It is £40 for an eyeshadow palette that are colours that I know I'm not going to use that much. And realistically, if I looked in my collection, I think I have those colours, especially like the greens. I have a lot of greens, like Makeup Geek, in my collection. So did I really need that? No. And now looking at reviews, a lot of people are saying the formula is very overhyped and it's just a standard formula. The eyeshadows are actually crumbly, like the shimmers. Some people are even saying the mattes are harder to blend. It's not really anything against like Melt Cosmetics. It's just that I'm happy I didn't get it because I know it would have just collected dust in my collection, and I don't want to spend £40 for it to collect dust. For me, if I'm paying £10 for a drugstore palette and it collects dust, it's £10. I don't feel that bad about it. But £40 on a palette that I'm going to end up using a few shades from, doing a couple looks with them and then putting it to the side, I can't. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't buy it. So the next palette that I'm really glad I didn't buy is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill New palette. The reason why I never bought it when it first launched was because the shades are just too bright. It's not something that I know I'm going to reach for a lot. It's a big palette, and yeah, some people love big palettes, but I've just come to the conclusion that I don't really use big palettes. They just sit at the bottom of my drawers. Another thing that I've heard as well is that the formula is different from the first palette, and the first palette's formula was really good. I really enjoy the formula. So if the second one is different, I don't really want to risk paying, I think it's like £39 for a palette that could potentially not be as good as the first one. And it's just a palette that I know I'm not going to miss in my collection, so I'm glad I didn't buy it. So the third palette is the Hourglass Ghost face palette. When I tell you, I was so close to buying it. It went on sale and it was £50, and then I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to come back to it in a bit and see if I still want it. I never did come back to it. I just completely forgot about it. I think with that palette, when I really thought of the shades, it wasn't a palette that I was going to use as much. I already have 2 face palettes, one from Becca, one from Hourglass. I love my Hourglass Unlocked palette. That is just absolutely amazing. I love that product. So did I really need another Hourglass face palette? No. How much was I actually going to end up using? Probably not enough to actually justify paying. I think it's like £75. Even when it was in sale, it was £50. So yeah, I could have bought it, but I was like, do I really need it? No, so I didn't get it, and I'm actually really glad I didn't get it. So the next palette is the Natasha Denona Bieber palette. I love the way this palette looks. Something about this palette that just makes me want it. However, it is £111. That's not a joke. That's a lot of money for eyeshadows. Like, that's a lot of money for anything, but for eyeshadows, That's insane. So that is one of the reasons why I'm so glad I've never actually bought a Natasha Denona palette, because I don't think anything could be worth that much. Even if the formula is absolutely amazing, I still don't think I could actually tell myself it's worth it. And also, out of the whole bottom row of that palette, I would only use the shade, the dark brown one, maybe the black one and the creamy one. I would never touch those grey shades, which obviously it's only 2 shades out of a massive palette, but still, I would feel like if I'm going to pay £111 for a palette, I have to use it every day and hit pan on all the shades. And that's just not going to happen. I have too many eyeshadows to just want to stick to one palette. And also, I feel like Natasha Denona is just super hyped up. I feel like a lot of YouTubers forget to look at the prices of their PR, because a lot of people talk about Natasha Denona and I'm like, do you know how much that is? Do you know like that worth of money? Are you telling someone who earns, you know, £8 an hour, £9 an hour to go and buy that? Like, how many hours would they have to work to earn an eyeshadow palette? And to be honest, they're very inconsistent in reviews as well from what I've seen. So I just, yeah, it's just not for me. So the next palette is the ABH Soft Glam palette. So this palette I was so close to buying, but then I never bit the bullet, and I'm actually really glad I didn't. When I really look at those shades, I have those shades in my collection. I would have bought that palette if I didn't have already those kind of colours in my collection. So if I would have just started out on makeup, that's the palette that I would probably buy, because it's like your basic neutrals, it's your soft glam kind of looks. It's what a lot of people wear, like actual day-to-day makeup. If it was like my first palette, then yeah, I would definitely buy that. But as someone who has a lot of eyeshadow palettes, I don't feel the need to buy it, and I don't feel like it's missing in my collection, if I'm honest. If I'm honest, the ABH formula isn't my favourite at all. I feel like the shades are too powdery. Like, they just have so much fallout. I've literally hit pan on a shade in my Modern Renaissance palette that I haven't used that much, like to hit pan. And for me, I don't use my Modern Renaissance palette enough to then go and justify going and buying another ABH palette. Like, it's just not logical in my opinion. Another palette that I almost bought, and then my friend had it and I was like, oh my god, I need this palette, it's so beautiful, but I'm so glad I didn't buy it, was the Huda Beauty Warm Brown Obsessions palette. So looking at the shades closely, I just knew in myself that those shades are not shades that I reach for. I like very neutral shades, where that palette was very warm. Obviously it was called a Warm Obsessions palette. So how likely was it that I was actually going to use it, and I was just kind of drawn into the Huda Beauty hype again. I did actually see this one in person, and it is a very pretty eyeshadow palette, but it's just not a palette that I know I'm going to get use out of. I much prefer her Nude Medium palette. I use that a lot. I dip into that every time I do my makeup, more or less. And I know that's a palette that I'm actually going to use like a lot of, because it's more of those kind of neutral kind of shades, where this palette was just really warm, and it's just not the kind of shades that I like on me. And yeah, this one is just down to me not liking the shades. It's not that I don't like warm shades on me, I do. However, it's just not something I reach for every time I do my makeup. Every time I do my makeup, these are the kind of looks that I create. So very neutral kind of looks. So yeah, that one's more of a personal preference. It's just colours that I know I'm not going to use, so I'm happy I didn't buy it. Okay, so another palette that I almost bought, or palettes should I say, is the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill Vault collection. So there were a couple of those palettes that I was like, oh my god, these look stunning, I'm gonna get them. And they're only £16, so it's not like it was expensive. And then I saw reviews of them, and it's like, they're so inconsistent. There's so many bad reviews. I'm just like, I'm not buying a palette that has so many bad reviews. You never know with Jaclyn Hill. I feel like a lot of people just say her products are bad for hype and for clout. So like for me, I just didn't want to risk it. I was never able to actually go in store and swatch them and see how they look in store, so I just never bought it. So once the hype died down, I was so glad I didn't buy it, because I didn't even think about them again. So yeah guys, that is today's video. Obviously I do have a lot more makeup that I've always wanted and I just never bought, and I'm glad I never bought. So if you want to see a part 2 of this kind of video, please let me know, because I can definitely do that. I definitely have like foundations and concealers that I wanted to buy and actual other products rather than just eyeshadow palettes. So yeah guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.